So let's make a start. Okay, so welcome everyone. Really happy that you've decided to spend an hour and a half of your time today, whatever time of day it is for you, to listen for a bit. And also, as I've said in the emails out, there'll be plenty of time as well for questions and answers later on. So I don't know, I might be talking for anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes, and then at least half of the time will be for you, your questions and answers. But a couple of things to start us off with today. The idea for this came about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was, in fact, having a day where I would take 2 hours during the day to take my current mentees' calls, their recordings with their clients. I put them in my earbuds and I take them on my phone on a nice long walk. And it was during a week where the weather was pretty good here in the UK not long ago. And in the time of me listening, I went, wait a minute, this sounds a very similar conversation to a different coach with a different client yesterday. And I thought, wait, it's very similar to a different coach with a different client like 3 times last week. And I thought, well, what's the pattern? So I was sitting on a bench at the top of this really lovely hill, listening to the birds and watching the clouds go by and everyone. I thought, got really curious behind what am I hearing that is a pattern in people's coaching that if everyone knew that pattern and knew the behaviors behind it and what the solutions may be, what may be a more impactful direction that could be really good for lots of people. So that was the idea behind it. So I busily got out my phone and I made some notes on that, and there were a lot of notes. And I refined that over the last few weeks. And then I went to a weekend with Aaron Turner 2 weeks ago. And I'm really happy I went because what I think I'd have said 2 weeks ago before I went on that weekend with Aaron Turner is very different than now, which I'm really happy about. So for you, my wish is therefore that you're getting the latest kind of insights and the simplicity behind, in my opinion, um, what would make most impact for you when you're with your clients. So this is not about getting clients. It's not about the whole business of that. This is about creating impact with your clients, um, in my opinion. And it's just my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. This is not gospel. It's just what I've learned over my years of coaching and mentoring other coaches. And the other thing that I just mentioned there about life-changing impact, it matters that that's what this conversation is about. Because for the first, so I've been coaching now for, it's 25 years I've been coaching people now. And for the first half of that time, for the first 12 and a half years of coaching, I was what would be called the classical coach of helping people get what they want, going from A to B, get the promotion, get their, I don't know, dream job, the life they want, all in their life circumstances to be able to get that stuff right. And it would work, it would get people what they wanted. But then I stumbled across, in going to a coaching school by Michael Neal back in 2012, I stumbled across something that was far more transformative and life-changing than that. And then when I started coaching with what we call the three principles as the foundation behind it, the understanding of how the human experience is created moment by moment, how the mind works, the nature of feelings, thought, mind, consciousness, success, all of that kind of stuff, state of mind. When I first coached somebody, the little that I knew, and I didn't even know what I knew, but I just explained it that I heard some stuff, it changed someone's leadership ability just like that. And that happened in January of 2012. So I thought there's something definitely in here. And I remember that coaching conversation really well because I thought I'm not going back to the old way ever again. And this person who's in Ireland said the same thing. Said, "This is the best coaching we've ever done. I'm glad you went on this training." And I said, "Yeah, so am I, evidently." And so the point is that if you're here, this conversation right now is about making life-changing impact, not just helping get somebody the thing that they think they actually want. It's way bigger than that. It is transforming, or what's on offer is to transform a client's experience of being alive, the experience of being themselves. For me, what I noticed and why I think I feel qualified to see it like this and say it like this is that before me learning about mind, thought, and consciousness, before me learning about the inside out nature of life, I wasn't particularly happy that I'd been born. I wasn't. And if you've read anything in any of the things I've written anywhere in a few books, in certain chapters, or my own blog posts, or anything that I've ever written or shared, you know that's true for me. But here's what's changed is that I feel so lucky now to have been born. And nothing in my life has changed other than the fact I now understand a little bit about how life works. To me, I think that matters for one really good reason. And I'm going to ask you to reflect it for yourselves as well, is that I know, therefore, what coaching and this understanding can do for people. From my heart and being very heartfelt about it, I know that this can absolutely change someone's life from, being a little bit resistant that they were born to thinking that they had won the lottery jackpot to have been born, because that's my life. And because of me really knowing that deep down, knowing the truth of that for me, I never have to worry about value to a client, ever. Because for me, what I've seen, this is priceless. No price. I mean, if someone said, "Hey, here's £1 billion, 1.3 billion US dollars, and we'll give you this money, but you go back to not understanding how the mind works, and you go back to your old understanding of life back before 2010. Take the money or take your understanding." I would take the understanding every time, no question. Now, I feel very lucky to know that and understand that, but it also comes across, I think, that if I'm challenged, which I am, by people, by clients, then they feel the truth. And I think the reason I'm bringing this up now is a lot of the time we underestimate what's on offer for our clients, and they do too. So if someone says, "Well, I'm stuck in my career, I don't know which job to take next," I will absolutely listen. I will absolutely have that conversation. But helping them decide whether to turn left or right is nothing compared to what's on offer in the conversation that I'm very willing to have with anybody who is willing to listen. And I want to fight for and be on the side of people having those life-changing insights that makes them very grateful that they were born. And ultimately, that they can then live their life in a way that's totally up to them, because I don't want to get involved in the decisions that they make. I don't. I do not want to get involved in that. I think that's their own free will, their own decision to do what they will with their life. But I'd love everyone to know that they are free, really free. And the only thing that we're ever caught in is thought appearing real sometimes. The only thing that's ever in our way. And when we are that free, then life has a totally different feel to it. Because I can play the game of life with absolutely nothing at stake. And I know when people play with nothing at stake, they play for the sake of playing, not for the sake of winning. They do better and enjoy more. So I love the notion of helping people enjoy their life and achieve more, but do it from a place where they're relaxed and with more ease, and more love comes through them. They're nicer to be around as a wonderful, happy byproduct, and ultimately that they feel glad that they were born to. And the bigger picture, if I'm going beyond the conversation that I have with my clients and the conversations that you have with your clients, I happen to be firmly in the belief that, and I do mean a belief, that if everyone knew that feelings don't come from the outside, that emotions are internally created 100% of the time for 100% of the people, there would be no war. We wouldn't harm other people because it would not make any sense anymore. And if we do have, um, I don't know, rows or arguments, then they would be nothing. They would just take 2 minutes and then we'd get over it and we'd apologize and they'd see our innocence. So, that's my bigger hope, I guess, for humanity, which is way beyond my pay grade as I see it right now. So I want to go back to having conversations with our own clients on a one-to-one basis. And that can include if you're working with groups too, as I do. So I wanted to start there by laying the groundwork for, or the grounding for today's call. And while I've got a bunch of notes on a page in front of me here, and like I really do, I don't know how many of those are still going to be relevant because I want to speak what makes sense to me right now while I'm with you all. I'm wondering these days, and I have done for the last week, whether the only thing I can ever really pay attention to in myself is how relaxed of mind I am, how much ease there is going on in here, nothing else. That's my job with me. Am I relaxed? Because I'm noticing that it might be literally that simple, that when I'm relaxed of mind and there's often more ease in here, everything in my coaching is better. Better in inverted commas. Okay, my listening's better. My ability to notice the bigger picture of what's going on in my clients is far clearer and simpler. What I say, what I share, and where I share it from is really different when I'm in that state of ease. So I want to give that example because to me, one thing that we do that really matters, but its foundation is having being at ease and in a good state of mind and having a relaxed mind, is listening. And I was honored a few months ago, back in May, to be speaking at the Listening World Summit in Prague. And I gave a talk, was on a panel, did a couple of workshops on the third day. I think I learned more about listening during and after that than I did before it in my entire life. I mean it. So here's an example. If I'm in a low state of mind, if I'm not, present, I'm not relaxed of mind, it's very easy for the thoughts in my head to seem relevant, and I'll be listening to this instead of listening to the person in front of me, listening to my client. Very easy to get tricked into that. And to me, the only person that matters in a coaching conversation is the client, not me. I do not want me on my mind at all. Now, I've known that for quite some time, not having me on my mind. And the reason is not having me on my mind means that, yeah, my listening's better, but there's no space for insecure thoughts. The thought that can pop into our head of, oh, are they getting value from this? Am I being good enough for them to refer me to somebody? All of that self-win thinking about win stuff, the coach thinking about the coach stuff, you thinking about you stuff. That can just come and go. It might pop in, but I don't have to listen to that thought. And when I'm in a good state of mind and relaxed, then those thoughts really do just come and go, and I do not pay attention to them. So that's an example of why I think that really matters. But here's what's a little bit more new for me as well. I know I've talked to a few of you who are here on today's call live about this in the past week or so, is that I used to think that if I had a compelling thought, the thought, I've really got to tell them this. I've really got to tell the client this. I thought that was one to listen to and to follow. Well, I realize I'm probably wrong, because the feeling of this is not the feeling of ease. It's not the feeling of connection to a deeper mind. It's not the feeling of wisdom. The feeling of wisdom and a deeper mind is far more neutral. I hadn't realized that until 9 days ago. And I noticed that I would act on an excited thought, thinking it was good news. Geez, I was listening half as well as I used to, but another half now can go. Here's something else about listening when I'm in a secure state of mind and I'm truly listening to them, not listening to my own spurious thoughts, whether they're insecure thoughts about me or they are uh, excited thoughts, compelling thoughts that I really need to tell them they understand this. The other thing with listening, I listen to the bigger picture. I'm listening to and for really, even without knowing it, because I'm not doing this consciously. And great coaches do not do this constantly, um, consciously. They just listen and they notice what's going on in the client's world. So let me give you an example. A client says, well, you know, it's my boss. They're being a total pain. And I can then really jump on that first thing that they've said to me 2 minutes into a call and start talking about the inside out nature of life. Oh, well, it's not your boss doing that. Not that impactful. Because there could be 11 other examples that I might listen back to as they're talking if I do not jump in, if I just listen and I stay curious with them and just take them in. The phrase intake, take people in, intake. All of the things that they can say to us is information. It's information about how they see life and their world, which is always really helpful and useful for us to know. Compared to me 8 years ago, I would hear everything and anything anyone would say would be something to argue against. Because I would jump on the first thing, oh, yeah, it's your boss. Well, no, it isn't. And then we'd be an intellectual argument, which would go sometimes well, but not as well as if I just listened and took them all in and stayed curious. Because here's what can happen. Out of the list of 11 things that they might share, three of them may be outside in kind of things, and the other eight might be things that they know are being brought up from the inside. So I can then bring that through in the conversation that what they already know about these eight things out of 11 compared to the three things on the outside, it will be really great conversation to have with them. They're giving more information that helps me understand more about the way that they're seeing life. And when I understand more information and more ways about seeing life, it will genuinely occur, as it will to all of us. Oh, they think trying hard is a great strategy for getting what they want. Oh, wow, they're really busy minded. If their mind was slower, maybe they could actually hear a deeper wisdom that they know exists, but are giving themselves a hard time for not being able to hear it. Whatever it is, or another way of saying it would be, when I'm listening with curiosity and I'm slower on the inside, I'm being present to them, not present to what I'm thinking about. All of a sudden, it's noticeable, the big thing that if they understood it would totally change their life. I'll say that sentence again. The one big thing that if they understood it would change their life. Now, that doesn't mean now jump on it and then think, oh, okay, let me now tell you the one big thing that if you understood it, that would change your life, because I'm now in a feeling that isn't particularly uh, neutral. And I'd love to stay in a more neutral state of mind, because then the client and I can have a really meaningful conversation and exchange notes in a curious way that might help them get a big life-changing insight. Because the other thing I notice is that we are very keen to tell people instead of asking them, questions for their own self-discovery and getting them to look and get curious for themselves. We have a tendency, and this is what I was listening to time and time again, and me too, right? There's nothing that I'm sharing about other people's calls that I do not still do. No perfection here, and never will be. But on a learning curve like the rest of us, towards being able to provide a greater environment for life-changing impacts for clients. There's a world of difference between someone seeing it for themselves and being told an idea. It's funny because there's a few people on this call I've known for a long time, and one person here I've known for, where are we now, 2024. I've known one person on this call for 22 years, and before Principles Life, right? He and I used to work in the same company in different countries. We co-facilitated a training program for a company, a soft drinks company here in the UK, and we were having a debrief at the end of the day. And really, he was helping me because he'd been training a lot longer than I had been at that point. And he said to me, "Win, you do a lot of telling instead of getting them to look." And then he said this phrase to me, which I've never forgotten because it's 22 years ago. He said this: "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." Now, let the gender bias slip here, okay? So I'll change it to someone convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. It's really easy for us to forget that. And when we tell people it's this way, and in their mind, wait a minute, that's not what I think, They're in their heads and we're in our heads too. Because someone, when we're trying to convince somebody, which is what telling someone really is about, right? That's the energy behind it, is convincing somebody. It doesn't give space for that curiosity. And it's going to put them into their intellectual, analytical mind, which is not where insights come from. So when we are tempted to do a lot of telling, if we get a feel for that, ooh, I'm in the telling feeling again, maybe time to just relax again and ease and let the next more wise thought come through, the next neutral thought come through, or simply go back to listening. And remember, this is listening to them, not listening to me. So I'm going to probably talk for another couple of minutes and then I'm going to open up for questions. But for those of you, I can see quite a few of you on the screen now, 25, and I think we've got, well, we got about 48 people in total here right now. Is this okay so far? This is yes, and this is no. This also works. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, great. Just so I know, just getting a read of the land. Because someone might say, no, we haven't heard you. Actually, you're on mute and you have been for the last 30 minutes, and that would not be the best. Yeah, at least one or two of you laugh. Good. All right. A couple of other points I'd like to bring up. Earlier on, when I said the one thing that would change their life forever if they understood this one thing, that wasn't an accident that I said one thing. Because here's what I do, and I hear a lot of us say this as well. A lot of us do this on a call. There's about 8 things that we talk about in 1 hour. And to me, it's just like, what? It's like so much that can be just like, let me throw this at a client, let me throw this at a client, let me throw this at a client. And I'm not saying don't have lots of different ideas of ways to share and ways for them to get to look at something. But to me, it matters that it's pretty much around one thing in the client's life. One thing that if they understood it about how human beings work, that would change their life. Because if it is that one thing, then look, I get distracted by thought too, and I go on another angle, and a lot of us do. But it isn't doing them the service that I think is warranted by us, or us at our best, is to have one thing and we stick to it. What we often do because we're so keen to help is that we forget the bigger picture of relaxed mind again, ease, and just take them in. And they could just be, and in my experience, there's always the one thing. I won't always know what that is, and until I do, then it's still just stay curious and listen. Remain curious and listen, remain curious and listen. Because if it is noticeable that it's the one thing, everything else is a symptom, and it will not be life-changing impact. Because, we go along like, that people call it whack-a-mole. It's an it never was a game in the UK when I grew up anyway about like hitting that. It was called something else in the UK. I can't remember what it was called. Um, but it is that. It's just like something pops up in our client and then we jump on it. Something pops up, we jump on that. It happens a lot. So, point again, go back to listening and stay curious and take them in. And then again, it will occur the one thing that will change their life forever. Or another way of saying the same thing, going slow goes further. Going slow goes further. There's two other things I think I just want to share again before I open it up to you. Again, I'm going to say this as an opinion, not of truth. But from experience, I've noticed that giving life-changing impact comes a lot more from people understanding how human beings work than it does about telling people what to do. So another way of saying it, as best I can, I stay out of the this is what to do. Absolutely, I prefer to stay out of the telling people what to do, staying out of, or even reframing something. Hey, look at it like this, look at it like that. Because that's not the same thing as looking at the understanding as to how human beings work. What do you make of that? Asking that kind of question. So they're elevating and they're getting curious about the bigger picture patterns. Asking them the questions, have you ever felt happy in the rain? Because, something like that is an interesting question. If they think, no, this weather's really getting me down and everything looks like it's causing them from the outside. And yeah, I've been happy in the rain. Yeah. Have you been sad in the rain? Yeah, I have. So what does that tell you about rain? Well, that's a point. Yeah, well, what's that got to do with my life? Well, I'm kind of hinting at here that maybe everything you're up against is weather. What do you mean? Curiosity in them. It's a nice, curious kind of philosophical, which is the next point I want to get to. If we can get clients to be more philosophical, which is curious at a higher level, not in the weeds, not in the detail of I need to get this right, I need to get that right. How am I going to make payment on mortgage next month if my job is up for risk? What am I going to do about this? Well, are they the right person for the rest of my life? All of those kind of questions, which may seem really important in the moment, big scheme of things, probably not. Then I'd like them to take the step back too and see that philosophical, far more philosophically, at a human being level as opposed to me in my thinking, which looks really sticky, true, personal, and real to me. And when they are more philosophical, their listening changes, their presence changes, their receptivity changes. But I also know until they're more receptive, there's no point going anywhere. And by the way, being receptive is them being in a good feeling where they have the ability to listen, not the tendency to just keep fighting, or the tendency to disagree, or their tendency to not listen, whatever it actually is. But having two people just curious and open-minded and looking at everything in life more philosophically, that can really take the conversation, what's sometimes called upstream, upper level, into a place where they can see with a reflective mind what they've made up about their life. And in my experience, when anyone goes and looks at their life that way, they're really prone to have huge, huge insights on it because they can see the bigger picture. They're not in it. And from that place, when they're in a great state of mind and we remain curious, who knows what amazing thought might occur to them in their life they've never had before. And that's a life-changing insight. No idea what it is. Can't know. But it's curious as I get ready to turn it over to you. Um, the word insight is a really well uh, chosen two words stuck together for insight. It's in them. They have new sight in them. So they see something in them, not us doing the telling, going back to what I said. They have an insight. And Insights more likely when they have space in their mind and the space between all the sticky thinking that human beings can have. And the last thing, then I promise this will be the last thing before I wrap this up. The other thing that I always want me to remember, but also anyone else as a coach, we're on a learning curve. Can't shortcut it. Can't not be on it. It's worthwhile seeing that philosophically too. We're going to be on a learning curve for life, forever. For as long as we coach, we're going to be on a learning curve. So taking it personally where we are, compared to other people, or whatever else comes into our mind, or shoot, I mean, if I'd been coaching for 5 more years, then I'd really be able to help this person. Yeah, that's not helpful and frankly not true, because you don't know, if you just stayed curious with somebody, what insight they might have. And, one way of saying that for us as coaches is, yeah, in 5 years' time, you'll be further along on the learning curve. But if you don't coach for 5 years, you won't be. You'll be exactly where you are now. So another way of saying it, you're on a learning curve, deal with it. We all are. That's kind of it. And it's totally impersonal. You never have to worry about it because there's another, to me, what's innate in human beings, natural, is our ability to learn, often unconsciously, often when I'm pretty sure you've had the experience where you've learned something and went, wait a minute, when did I learn that? It just happens. The deeper part of our mind that is not the cognitive egoic mind takes care of all the things that look like we have to do the heavy lifting, and it's been doing it all along. And to me, that ties it right back to one of the first things I said today, which was about in a relaxed mind at ease, really is more allowing of the deeper part of our mind to do the heavy lifting without Win getting involved and stirring and stirring and stirring and getting into his intellect and helping another client get into their intellect, which is not going to be as fruitful as possible when both people are just in the presence of mind. So I'm now going to take a big sip of tea and I'm going to leave it open to you. If you can put up your digital hand, if you know how to use that on Zoom. Okay, Rishi certainly does. So, Rishi, I'm going to ask you to unmute. And the first thing before you ask your question, sir, and good evening. I hope Goa is treating you well. It is Goa you moved back to, right? Yeah. Tell everyone how you raised your digital hand, okay? That's the first thing I'd like to do when you unmute yourself, and then ask your question.
Cool. Hey everyone. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, if you can't see anything, just put your cursor there and you'll see something pop up. There's an audio, there's a video, there's participants, chat, and then react with a little heart. Click on that react button and you'll see a button which says raise your hand.
And that's how to raise your hand. Thank you for the tutorial, Rishi, because I forgot, because Zoom did an update 3 weeks ago, and I
Yeah,
forgot where that facility is.
yeah,
Ask your
took me by
question, sir. It's nice
surprise.
to see you.
Yeah, likewise, Vin. And there's so much that resonated with me in what you shared, especially um, I don't know if you remember the Batman Robin thing, but the number of times I've pinged you saying I'm seeing more on that and more on that every 3 months, and I realized that you know that's something you pointed out and you shared, right? It's not something I saw fully at that moment, but I still see more and more about that. Um, and a lot of what you shared. So I'm on my master certified coach credentialing journey with the ICF, and I have most of the requirements met, and I'm seeing so much harmony in what you're saying and what they require at that level of credential, which is very odd considering this wouldn't pass their previous lower levels of credentialing. So they got it right at least at the MCC level. My question is, recently in a coaching conversation, it came up to me. I'm used to subconsciously listening for the one thing rather than a bunch of things where I can jump at. And sometimes clients are not in a relaxed state of mind. Sometimes there's just too much happening with them. And they're jumping all over the place. And it's difficult for us to identify one thing because they keep changing that thing every 5 minutes. And that's simply because the mind is in a frenzy and they're not grounded enough to listen to what they're saying themselves. um, I'm curious to explore how we can do that, how we can slow them down, really slow them down, even shock them in their tracks if that's what's needed sometimes, and still be in alignment with asking and listening and being curious rather than taking a, oh, I know and I want you to shut up standpoint.
Yeah, good question, I think. Now, I'm going to be a bit, I don't know what the word would be, blunt with you. Couldn't you just say what you said to me to them?
Which bit of it?
Well, I noticed that you're jumping a lot today. And I noticed that your mind seems going really fast, but I don't really want to tell you to shut up. But I don't know if you notice how fast your mind is going. Yeah, it is. What of it? Well, I don't know if that's going to be very helpful. Or another way of saying it, Rishi, is if you know that what you're going to say is in their interest and it's coming from a really neutral place, go for it. Say it. It matters that it's coming in, it's not because I'm frustrated with them, because that will have a totally different feeling. But if it's coming from, hey, I notice you're really fast. I am. Yeah. And that could be all you need to say.
That makes sense. Just sharing it as an observation.
Right. Sharing it as an observation with no judgment. Because that observation is a really helpful observation, in my opinion, that it occurred to you that's just like, wait a minute. Until they slow down, this is going to be pointless. It's worthwhile them knowing that, right? Without
Yeah.
saying, hey, you're wasting your time and money, pal, right? Without saying it like that. But you know what I mean. Come from a good feeling
Oh,
towards them in a neutral place. Thanks, Rishi.
thank you.
Take care, sir. Mika, hi.
Hey, Win. Always lovely to see you.
Likewise.
Um, so a couple of weeks ago, I was having dinner with some three principals people, and I think we were like six people around the table, and there was one person that was really new, like she heard of the principals 4 weeks before or something, and everybody else was kind of a couple of years in. And all of a sudden, I saw how we were all helping. Ah, you should read this book or you should follow that teacher. And I was like, oh my God. And I mean, I was doing it too. So it's not, but then next was, oh my God, I do this when I'm with clients as well. So what's been on my mind is, okay, I have to stop helping. But that's not really helpful either, is it? Because things will kind of, once I've seen it, things will kind of, I mean, how do you say that in English? It'll occur naturally once I'm with my client. Yeah.
That's a learning curve in action
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's definitely helpful as well is the feeling. It's like it's for me, it's always been because I've only seen that this year. We've known each other for a while. I'm a slow
You
learner.
and me have known each other like 6 years.
But it I don't know, it just clicked in spring what that meant. And if I'm in helper's mode, then I'm not in that feeling, in that what you described as a neutral, calm feeling. So yeah, it's gonna be because I haven't seen any clients in a long time, but I'm seeing somebody in 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing.
Mm.
Thank you. Sia has raised his hand. Sia, it's you next. Hey,
Some light here, so it's
yeah, you've remuted yourself. I think that's by accident.
okay. Hope this is better. Hello, everyone. Yes, it's me. Okay, now I can see myself. Right. Thank you very much. Well, as usual, as always, it's fantastic to hear your voice and be with you, spend some time with you. Yeah, great insights. Just tickling the right places and make you wonder. Again, going back to the grounding and basics. Which feels great. But one thing that I wanted first to share is because you mentioned Aaron Turner. I remember I spent the weekend with them about 4 or 5 years ago. And I went through my training, my academy and everything else. But I guess, we are all human beings. So he said, something. He said like, or maybe he was talking about thoughts and how they, of course, what role they play and stuff. And then I remember I asked him and I said, look, but if everything is thought, then how come I only feel it when I'm having like heavy negative thoughts? That's when I feel the weight of them, that I'm not comfortable. But when I'm feeling great, I don't feel any thoughts. I don't feel anything. I'm just being great, feeling great. And they said, well, that's the difference between the thought in the moment and the thoughts that we carry with yourself. There is a difference in the weight between the two. The one which is flowing just goes through without being noticed. The ones that you notice, you got to possibly be aware of those ones. And yeah, it really made a big difference for me. So what I do is just basically, I don't know, subconsciously maybe just, if I'm having some thoughts, if I don't, well, we're always having thoughts. If I'm not feeling any ways, I just jump up and down out of happiness. I say, well, there you go. Well, it's just, every day, every moment is a confirmation of what he said. And it's become really like a stamp on my life, like this thing. And which means that I'm much more aware of my own thoughts when I'm not feeling great. So when I'm feeling great, I don't think about thoughts. I'm just living my life. And when I'm not feeling great, then I'll be like, why am I not feeling so great? And those are moments possible that I say, oh, well, yes, I'm basically back and thinking about whatever future, past, whatever, which doesn't belong really to here and now. And it just, I don't need to do anything. I just notice it. And it all goes back to, great, I don't do anything. It's just self-adjusting the system we have, which is crazy.
Cool. So, Sia, was that a question or an observation?
Now that's an observation I just wanted to talk actually and say about Aaron. Yeah, Aaron, because you mentioned, I thought it's worth saying because it really opened my eyes, the way
So
he
cool.
said it.
Yeah. can I just jump on something that you said I think that could be important? Are you okay if I do
Of
this?
course, of course.
Often when we get a feeling that we don't like, we analyze, which, as you said, is more thought. And you said it, why am I feeling like this? Well, it's of anything after the question why is going to be more analytical. Why is an analytical question in its nature? Unless it's more curious, I wonder, right? Which is far more open in its feeling than why. But you're right, because it's not about what I'm feeling, or it's not about a feeling, it's the relationship or the fact that all we're doing is thinking and feeling. And if any human being really understood the nature of emotions, then every emotion would be okay. And when every emotion is okay, it's like that's a totally different life. Then we're really free. And I know it's possible for humans when they see that to see every feeling, every emotion as a blessing, as opposed to something to figure out or avoid or fight against. And when every feeling is a blessing, then that's a life that people go, for as long as I'm alive, this is a freaking amazing experience.
Yes, that's when we
Thank
don't
you,
need
Sia.
to run away and hide from anything. Thank you. Thank you. It's all a blessing.
Thank you, my friend. Take care. Thank you, Sia. Anastasia, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Win, for this um, call. It's really, really nice. For me, what stand up was that you don't give everything at once, that you need to choose for yourself by listening to the client was the most important one thing to give. And I just, what it opened up for me, it's like this couple of weeks, I had a lot of intake calls, and in these intake calls, I tried to answer every single questions that the people or every story or real life, taking it back to the principles and showing how it's. And I received the feedbacks from all of them, kind like, wow, it was so much information. Everything like made sense, but it's so much. And right now, you just opened my eyes with you just need to give one piece of advice, well, one piece of information at a time, so it can stick to them and make sense to them and carry forward. And then after that, they may be interested in knowing more. In my case, it was like more of, okay, I got this one call with massive information, and now I'm done for the rest of my life. I don't want to hear more. Do you see
Yeah.
that if you are trying to? Because
Yes.
obviously I was coming from the place of I want to help, but I haven't realized that giving too much is not helpful. So how do you
Yeah.
for me, like, I guess the question is, how do you approach the intake calls with your clients? Like, how do you show the value that you know how to solve their trouble, doesn't matter which area is it, when
Yeah.
you have only 45 minutes and you want to to show them that you know the answer, but at the same time don't give them the whole information about the principles and the thoughts and the feelings and the everything.
Right. So I'm not interested in giving them information.
Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever. I've no interest in giving them information about the principles. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I was, I'd send them a book, right? I'd send them the missing link. I'd send them, I don't know, George's Secret to Mental Health, or whatever else was on my, on my desk right now that I thought, okay, it's The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal, The Space Within. Like, no. Here's to answer your question, how do I approach intake? I just listen. Now, I will ask what they want, but I don't want to try and be in any state where I'm proving myself to anybody. Because I know I do terribly when I've got that on my mind, because I've got me on my mind. It's a recipe for disaster. It's one of my favorite things about coaching is because I never have me on my mind because I can't. It gives me a break from myself. I live with myself. 18 hours a day. Take the 6 coaching hours off, right? That's terrific time. So I don't want to be in that feeling. I want to be in the feeling of curiosity with a neutral mind and just listen. And then every time, Anastasia, it occurs to me, oh, okay, here's what's on offer for you. Not here's what I will do for you, but here's what's on offer for you. What's on offer for you is to have more peace of mind, regardless of what's going on in your life than you've ever thought possible. What do you mean? Well, you're trying to fix all these things in your life, and I could talk to you about all of those things, but it wouldn't give you what you want. But what I'm hearing in you is that the reason that you want all of these things is you want to feel really okay in being with you and have more peace of mind. That I can really help with. Here's my calendar link if you want to book a proper session, right? Or whatever your next thing is. But I want to do the intake. I want to take them all in, the whole picture, before I then go, all right, here's the big thing. No symptoms, no information. Here's what's on offer. I want them to know what's on offer.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Anastasia. Nice to see you. All right. Well, we got half an hour. We got plenty of time for more questions. More comments. John Kelly.
Hi, Wynn. Good to see
Hey,
you again.
good to see you too. So, shall I spill the beans on the secret from earlier on and what I shared?
You can do whatever you like. When I'll
You
spill
sure?
more beans than you.
That's true. So, if anyone wants to have any secrets on me, John Kelly will be the person to bribe. I guarantee you. Because it was John Kelly who said that phrase to me, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, back in 2002. So,
And
thank you, John.
it,
Lovely to see you.
it was Robbie Burns who said it first, or at least that's what I'd attribute it to. I also would like to thank you for the best investment that I ever made in my life, which was the money I gave you for you to spend some time with me. So it still is the best investment I've ever made all those years ago. I'd like to explore this neutral feeling and versus this excited feeling, and because I've written down, that I can get an excited feeling where I feel that I understand what's going on with the person I'm coaching, and I attribute that to wisdom, and I go with that, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I do genuinely try to show up and let the Holy Spirit do all the work, and sometimes I give the Holy Spirit a harder task than the Holy Spirit might like, so because I get in the way. But this neutral feeling is something, and maybe it might just be the word neutral. It seems slightly dead to me. Okay, whereas when I'm, let's call it, in the zone, or when it's not me that's doing the work, I refer to my essence, and the essence of the person in front of me have a conversation, and sometimes it's through my voice and sometimes it's not. I can live with peaceful. I can live with glowing even. I can see why excited might come in, but I'd like to explore that. I don't know if I have a question. I'd just like to explore it a bit more, if you don't mind.
Yeah. To you, is the feeling of being in that essence a different feeling than when you're excited that suddenly you see what they're up against?
Yeah, I the words that I use that seem to best describe it myself, whether it's in a coaching situation or whether it's just in a situation where, wow, isn't this just wonderful? There's a very calm ecstasy So it's a juxtaposition of the calmness and the ecstasy.
Yeah. That's what I think neutral means.
Okay.
Now, neutral to me doesn't seem dead. It's actually more alive, but I'm not there. In other words, I'm not in my gears. I'm not in my, it's not an egoic thing. It's coming through. There's a stillness, there's a calmness in it. There's the voice of something that doesn't seem to be mine.
Yeah.
But what matters is, because I mean, I love that you've brought this up, because words can be very confusing, right? Because we've all got different meanings because of thought about what words mean. So I'm really glad you've brought this up. Does that help?
It does help. Yes. Yeah. It does help. And I do understand one of my favorite words in my reading is ineffable. And I remember having to look up ineffable at least the first 16 times that I ever saw it written down, because it seemed to, what is that word again? It's in a lot of these books. What does it mean? So my kind of work with it is, well, you can't describe what it means. And that's what ineffable means.
Yeah.
So the words aren't
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, but we know the feeling. That's what matters in my mind. Because I thought that the excited feeling was a good thing to follow. That's why I brought that up. And I just realized in the last week that, wait a minute, that's the same. That's the same as the insecure. Well, it's coming from the same place anyway. And I don't want to come from my intellect. I don't want to come from an egoic place. The best I can do in service of the client having life-changing insights is that place that you're feeling, the place where I know that I love to feel because it's effortless and full of life, rich.
But you can have a recurring thought that is egoic. It's not a persistent knocking, it's just an egoic thought. Is that right?
Well, you could analyze this to death, John. You and I could. And we probably will again one time, I hope. But it's very, I think, easy to make what can be simple an intellectual pursuit. I do. As opposed to the desire for simplicity, because I know when I can feel the simplicity in things tend to go an awful lot smoother with less mental toil. At the end of the day, I'm feeling more invigorated than I did at the beginning, that kind of thing. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
I nearly give my first intensive that I did recently. I was nearly going to give the client their money back because it was such a beautiful experience
For you.
for me.
Yeah.
They seem to enjoy it too.
Yeah. Well, I think that might be a good sign. Not about giving money back, but the feeling that you were in.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for what you said. I had to get out of my own thinking quite quickly after I was like, okay, I'm going to cry now in front of everyone from what John just said. But I am so happy with everything that you've been doing in the last kind of, I don't know, 8 years, 7 or 8 years. So,
And it's down to me and you.
yeah, our friendship.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Take care, my friend. See you soon. Who's next? Who's next? Graham. Hey.
Hello, and thank
How you
you.
doing?
All right. I don't know whether this is going to come out as a question or not, so we'll see. But the thing I was pondering, and I think probably pondering even before this started, like this kind of life-changing impact thing, when I was thinking before I joined about what makes a difference to me when people are coaching me, it's that I don't know whether it's the seeing you're not broken or seeing that, okay, there's all this analysis going on, but actually you could have anything, or the hang on, you're seeing all of this, but actually what about that? So it's the, and I mean the old way of saying it, I suppose, would be holding up the mirror to let you see what you're not seeing. But I just wondered, like when you were talking about, okay, sitting with someone and helping think about what the one thing is, like, is there any relationship for you between the one thing and they're not believing in themselves if they could see that? The best way I think I've seen it in a coaching conversation when I coached somebody was when I asked them the question about, well, okay, instead of talking about what stops you, let's talk about what starts you. And suddenly, like, boom, like, totally different angle. But yeah, I'm not quite sure of the question in there, but yeah, before I joined, I was just thinking, the pattern I think over the years is when I come away and I think they truly think I could do anything, whereas I don't have that thinking.
Well, you've hit on an important point, Graham, because I absolutely believe that about anybody and everybody. I do have that. And everyone has asked a question, and everyone whose face I've seen on the screen so far today, tonight, my time. There's just so much love and warmth to them. And I know the truth of them, sometimes more than they do. Absolutely. And the one thing I would say is that I'm the least qualified person to see me on planet Earth, to see the real me, because I look that way and everyone looks this way. Right? I just think that's just not necessarily totally true all the time. And I'm upgrading that point because even as I said it then, I thought, is that true? There's something in it though, but you've hit on an important point. I want to be all in on a client, and I want to see their possibility and their beauty and their absolute freedom and their perfection. Because if I don't, not as effective as a coach. Now, the good news, because I've been around what we call the three principles for quite a while, I don't find that hard to see in anybody.
Hmm.
I see absolute possibility. That's my grounding in action. Here's also my grounding in action. If I'm annoyed or I'm buying into a doubt I might have for somebody, well, that's thought. It must be an illusion in my mind. It's a wind thought that isn't true and it'll have a feeling in it. Or another way of saying it, if I don't love a client, I got to get over myself first before I can do anything.
Hmm.
And to me, every time I've understood somebody, I've absolutely loved
Hmm.
them. So here's an example, Graham, right? And I don't know how helpful this will be for other people. I made a point in the last 6 weeks that there were 4 people in my life that I had not a somewhere below a good relationship with, that I was holding on to some resentment. And I thought that was because they deserved it. But I wanted to get over that. And I wrote their names down on a piece of paper and I thought, right, I'm gonna get over myself. I'm gonna get over myself. Well, it didn't take long. Soon as I started spending time with them and notice when I'm in my judgmental thinking, which I don't want to be in, when I'm just listening and taking them in, I absolutely loved them.
Hmm. It is that thing, isn't it, where the less we have ourselves on our mind, how easily everything else goes. Like it comes back to that.
Yeah, it
Mm,
does. It does.
mm, mm, thank you.
Thank you. Is there more on that in your ponderings?
Mm, I don't know, because like I say, I'm not sure there was a question per se. I think I was just thinking, I know the times where I've looked at the world and seen only what I haven't done versus what I have, and somebody's just pointed me to a different direction, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, so yeah. And I can see how when I see that in others, yeah, how transformative that is for them too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, what occurred to me as you said that, the film JFK about the well, it was a case brought by somebody after the assassination of John F. Kennedy in '63, and this was most of this took place in 1968, the movie. Um, and I watched it when it came out, and I think it was about 1991 or 1992 it came out. I was watching it, and at the end credits, it said, "What's past is prologue." What's past is prologue. In other words, everything that's been done in the past is a prologue to what's to come. Or in other words, irrelevant. Nothing to do with it, right? It's like the prologue in a book. Prologue is, right, and now the story starts. And I think that about every person, every moment, that they are totally free of everything they might have done or not done in the past. As I know past is prologue, that's truth to me.
Mm, yeah, which then would very easily lead to anything is then possible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Mm.
Take care. Thanks, Graham. Who's up next? You can raise a digital hand. Just got another 15 minutes. This is lovely. Time for loads of questions. Or it could be like, what are you talking about? What did this mean? Or it could be anything that you want to share or ask about. And as you're thinking, I've just put on gallery view again. It's nice to see so many faces, most of which I'm familiar with. Quite a few I've never met in person, which is also very cool. If you're too shy to actually put up your digital hand and ask me in person, you can put that into the chat. Oh, as I said that, someone just did that. Okay, there's two questions there. All right. I'm going to try and say this name properly. Trolls, do you find it harder to share with people very close to you? Sometimes. Sometimes. But it's not about them. It's not about them. And their closeness is about what's in my head that makes it difficult. What's in my head that makes it difficult to share. So, example, there are people in my immediate family I would absolutely coach, and there are people in my immediate family I absolutely would not. Right? There's nothing different about them. It's me, right? But I just know where that is. Um, but to me, even the people I think I that were close to me that I couldn't if they wanted to, I could get over myself. I could get over myself, and then I'd want to have a conversation with them that I'd want us to be really open and not let that harm or get in the way of all the other relationship stuff that we have. I've never known a relationship to be worse after coaching, but I'd want that to be out in the open early, and have that conversation. All right, Magda, thanks for raising your hand. I'll come to you in a second. There's another couple of points here. Dusty, all right, are the 49ers going to make it back to the Super Bowl? Yes. Hopefully this year, yes. Because you didn't say when. They're going to make it back someday. I really hope it's this year again. Anastasia says, the past is dead, so let the dead rest in peace, from The Enlightened Gardener by Sydney Banks. Yeah, that's cool. By the way, you know what? I'd forgotten that quote from The Enlightened Gardener. I need to go back to that because I've read The Enlightened Gardener revisited twice in the last few months. So I want to go back to the original one. For anyone who doesn't know, to Dusty's comment about the 49ers, there's a few passions I have in my life that take me out of being calm, present. Um, Anything that Wales are involved in sport, and anything to do with the 49ers. Yeah, I'm glad I live in a detached house because there's a lot of noise that goes on when they're playing. And when I'm at the stadium, I can let it rip. All right. So, Magda, you have a question. Hi. Hi, if you can unmute yourself, that would be really great, please. If you found out where the digital hand raising is, I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to unmute. Can you figure it out, Magda? Or while you're figuring it out, shall I go to Rishi? Okay. Rishi, it's over to you.
Okay, so you were talking about relationships, and that triggered something for me. Is this rather strange problem that I remember facing sometime 3 years ago, and then again recently? Is I go out on dates and people want to become clients, as in they see something in the energy, and they are more interested in a coaching relationship than a date. And that's rather strange because it's happening left, right, center right now.
What are you making of that?
There are people who will benefit from me helping them. And somehow that part of them is getting evoked in their interaction with me.
Yeah. Well, is it problematic with you that people want to hire you as a coach even though you're going on a date with them?
It's not problematic, but it's just a little weird in the sense that I'm not going there with that intention, but it's ending up becoming a coaching conversation.
Well, there may be some people on this call who've just realized how to get clients is just go on a bunch of dates, and all of a sudden they'll want to learn that, right? Rishi says there's a few people are going, a few people even in relationships are saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a really good plan." But here's the great thing, right? There's You've hit on something really cool there, that yeah, people really get a really good feeling about people who are in a good feeling. They go, how do you do that? And all of a sudden you're in a conversation. It's like, yeah, I might not want to have more dates with you, but I'll pay you and you can change my life. Now, it's up to you if that's problematic, right? If that's like, oh no, I really wanted to see this person. I have different feelings for them than I would a client, right? You get to figure that out. but it doesn't sound problematic. What it sounds to me is if that, well, maybe you're just really nice and open and you're not in your head on a date. A lot of people here would like to know how to do that too. How to get clients and how to be open-minded and not in their head on a date. There's two strands there, pal. So I think you're doing fine. But is there something there that you wanted to talk about, or was that just a nice observation?
It, it, it it was more than an observation. It was more of, hey, what's happening? Because it just seems to happen all the time now, and it's almost spooky that it's happening so many times repetitively. Let's see.
I guess the answer is there, right? Already out there.
That's
Cool. Thanks, Rishi. And good luck with your dating and client acquisition work. Sounds like they go very well together. Thank you, sir. Magda, hi.
I could not really unmute because the internet is very, very slow. So it was the rotating cycle. Yeah, exactly. So my question, I already a longer time I have confusion about nature of feelings, etc. Because we all say that all feelings are coming from our thoughts, right? But my experience is that there are some feelings, I call it intuition, it doesn't matter how we call it, which is really much quicker and has different quality than the really feeling which is coming from the thought. And I also listen video with Sydney Banks when he said, follow your feelings. So is there two feelings, or how you would explain? Because maybe I would also add some experience or some example. That, for example, my mother has very, very strong intuition. And a few years ago, I had a really bad accident, car accident. And when I stopped in the car, immediately she was calling if I am right. And she could not know anything in her mind, so it could not be from her thought. It simply had to be some deeper feeling. So shall we follow the feelings, or is intuition something else than a feeling? Do you
I
understand?
don't know how many questions you asked, but it was more than three.
No, I mean,
So I can share my opinion,
yeah, okay.
but it doesn't mean I'm right. Okay. I think there is intuition, and it comes with a different feeling. It comes with that kind of, I said the word neutral a few times, but for some people that word has different meanings. So some people call it like the still, quiet voice within. Sometimes it's kind of loud. I had one really loud a few years ago, and I was really surprised, but it had the kind of like boom of, I don't know, what a famous Hollywood actor saying. It was almost like on the Ten Commandments, do not go on that plane tomorrow, right? It was just like, whoa, interesting. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what Sydney Banks and a lot of the people who learned directly from him, what did they mean when they said follow the feeling? They meant that feeling. That feeling, the still feeling, not the egoic or the other kind of feelings, but follow the deeper feeling. Because in that deeper feeling, and you know what that is like when there's less stuff going on in here, you know that. But I also don't like to make rules up. Even, the things I've said on this call tonight, European time, they're not rules, they're just things I've learned that are helpful. And I will probably, half of them I might not live by in 10 years' time. I don't know. I don't want to have rules. Follow the feeling, don't follow the feeling. Because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I don't think we can get life wrong. And a lot of people in our community, they come with trying to think, okay, I want to know what's wisdom telling me, what's wisdom, which path to take. Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I go straight on? And I think we forget that it's not, in my opinion, it's not about getting life right. It's about living. And to me, the bit that helps me remember that is to know two things. We've no idea how left, right, and straight on are going to turn out. We've no idea. The other thing is, given the fact that what we feel in our state of mind has got nothing to do with circumstance, to me, that sort of shows that you can't really get life wrong. Really. Make some bad decisions, but let's face it, we all do that. And to me, I've made less bad decisions, and I'm putting inverted commas around bad decisions, just because I know that there are some feelings such as fear, anger, insecurity that just don't seem as worthy anymore for me to listen to. I've seen the gap between having a feeling and acting on it. That matters.
Mhm.
So I think there's intuition. I think there's like one collective consciousness, but I've no idea. I mean, I like to think that, but I don't know. Way above what I know is true. The little I know is really helpful to me. I have no idea if anything that I said right now, Magda, was useful, helpful, nonsense to you. So what are you thinking?
No nonsense. Yeah, I think we have a similar opinion that there is an intuition which is much deeper feeling than the feeling which is coming from our thoughts. Yeah. So yeah, actually, um, I also think it's true, but I also don't know.
Yeah. And it's good to live in the land of I don't know.
Oh.
Because anything's possible and anything is open for us to see more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Ahoy, Magda.
Ahoy.
So to wrap this up, I'm just gonna read out some of the comments here. Sia, good. My problem is the opposite to Rishi's. So does that mean, Sia, your clients want to date you? Is that what you mean? That's curious. And Trolls, I'm hoping I'm saying your name right because now I've said it twice. Maybe that's why Eyes monks live celibately. All right, great. Thanks very much. A few things, maybe just one thing to close up on. I think it's lovely that we spend time with people hoping that they see a little bit and have an insight that will change their life forever and get a raise up in level of consciousness. I think there are many very, very noble jobs on the planet. This seems to me like one of them. I see so much hope. if people understood. Acting on anger doesn't get us anywhere. My feelings are what I can be with all the time, and they don't come from me taking something that someone else has or having more. But I do think it can lift. Well, to me, here's what I think, right? Not that I know. If we had everybody's level of consciousness being raised and people understood that it's an inside-out experience and there's nothing to be worried about feeling anything. Really see what we're made of in that conversation that Graham and I were having. All the problems of the world, sustainability, famine, inequality, divisiveness, all disappear. So I think we're up to some pretty cool stuff in my mind in doing this. So I want to honor you for being here, for the real good reason of the fact that you're here and you're investing your time either live or listening back on video. And Mari, would you have the replay for sometime available? Yeah, I'll have it issued this week. You've invested an hour and a half of your time to watch and listen. It means that you're interested in doing more good, to be on that learning curve and to have more life-changing impact for your clients. Then I honor you for that. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week. And you can unmute yourself if you want to say goodbye. And I look forward to you. If you want to have a conversation with me one-to-one at any point, I'm easy to find. Very easy to find. Because welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you, Win. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and
Bye.
Thank you very
bye.
much.
Thank you,
Everybody have a
Wayne.
great
Wayne.
day.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye. Mm.